You said profitability does not mean success. And walk me through what you meant by that. My guest today is Annabelen Hemelgarn. She runs Ignite Design online out of Ohio. And she has spent close to 15 years helping businesses go from a pile of disconnected tools to one clean system that actually runs.
When you have the right systems and the processes in place, that pressure is alleviated.
The reason you feel pressure is because your process is broken. Welcome to Process Over Pressure, the show for founders and operators who are building something real and need permission to believe in it matters. I'm Chad Paris. My guest today is Annabelen Hemelgarn. She runs Ignite Design online out of Ohio, and she has spent close to 15 years helping businesses go from a pile of disconnected tools to one clean system that actually runs. We sit in almost the same world, just coming at it a little different, maybe a little different angle. So this is going to be a really a good one. Annabelen, welcome. Let's start where every honest business story starts. Not with all those wins that we can brag about, but let's start with the messy parts. What do you say?
I think that's a great place to start. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me too, Chad.
Well, thank you for being on. I am super excited about this show with you, and really appreciate you hopping on. So tell people who you are. You know, they're tuning in. They're like, we want to know more. So tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started. I think that's important.
All right. So I'm Annabelen Hemelgarn, and I actually own two businesses. I own an agency as well as a energy kind of material supply kind of company, energy audit, brokerage as well. Anyway, and I don't know if you knew this, but in my past life, I was an engineer and didn't want to work for corporate America. And so I decided to start building businesses, had an entrepreneurial spirit. But what nobody told me when you're an entrepreneur, when at the very beginning, is how hard entrepreneurship really is, right?
Yeah, sure.
Honestly, everyone's like, oh, you own your own business. Hey, that's awesome. And yeah, it's great. But they don't realize all the other stuff that rolls into having a business, right? And so what I took from owning the two businesses, the one that's like a material supply and energy brokerage, and then the agency, I came from it from 2 points of views, right? One that is actually like a other business versus me in the agency side, trying to figure out how in the world can I make it easier. I see both hats. I've worn all the hats actually. And so that's what I talk about when it's chaos, right? And my engineering mind is like, I can't stand it. I want a process. I want systems. But the problem is I didn't know what those systems were. And so that took years to build. And so now I'm just helping business owners with the systems that I created that worked for me. And I know it's going to work for all of them.
I love it. We're a lot alike in that. I think that's what maybe drawn us together is both of us has been in corporate America and we've worked for people and we've kind of been sitting in the, I don't say we're sitting in the stands because we're involved in it, but we've been on the inside of those corporates and there's a different dynamic in that. And we talk about this, but not probably into the depth, but there's some messy things inside corporate America and not to say corporate America is bad. That's not the point I'm making here. It's that the reality is that when you're working inside those and you have things that you see as a deliberate problem, a situation. It's like, this is a terrible process. This is what's causing some discomfort for everybody. And then you try to build those or fix those. Sometimes it's met with a very cautious upper team that's like, well, we want to move a lot slower. And it can be frustrating for people like us who see a problem. We can fix that overnight, but give me the rein to go do it. And that gets very frustrating.
Yes, I agree 100%.
And so for us, being able to now do it from an angle of this is what we do every day, like the fun part, what we really enjoy, and figuring out processes that are broken, and how do we help companies make it better and get better?
Right.
It's funny, they won't listen to their own people, but they'll listen to an outside consultant. Isn't it crazy?
Isn't that crazy? I thought the same thing. I'm like, how is that possible? Yeah,
I know.
all the time.
You hire these people, you pay them a lot of money, but you don't listen to them. But you'll listen to someone who comes off the street and says, hey, I can tell you what's wrong with your company. And you're like, oh, well, come on in, tell us.
Yes, exactly.
It's true, though.
It's 100% true.
So one of the things that you said in our pre-call we were talking about that I wanted to circle back was, and I think every owner needs to hear it. You said profitability does not mean success. And walk me through what you meant by that.
Well, I think what I was trying to get at is you can make, your books look like you are profitable. But the problem is success doesn't mean it's one category, it's the money coming in. There's a lot. And one of my biggest things that I want to keep control over or cherish is my time and my time management. And sometimes when you show that those numbers are great and the profitability is fantastic, that doesn't show how many hours you're putting in, how much you're sacrificing, how many things you're missing. And to me, I'm a mom, I'm a business owner. Those things matter. And guess what? Life is definitely not for granted. You can't take that for granted. And time is really our biggest asset. So for me, that's what I was saying in terms of success. Success to me is all of those. And if you don't have all of those, I don't see that as successful.
That's I think I want to sit there in that for just a second because I think
Sure.
you're onto something. I think you're right on path. Is that when we think about being a business owner or a business owner, and we're both business owners, we it's very easy, even in bigger companies, to get caught up in the profitability. And look, we all got to be profitable. Like that's not what we're
100%.
saying here. But what happens a lot of time is we judge the success on a company based on the revenue or the dollars that are profitable. That's what we judge a company on. It's just the way that's the standard, right? We all and I'm not defeating that. But what we do often miss is what is the amount of time and the work that's going into doing that because there is a direct return on an investment in that. It's your
Correct.
investment. It's your personal investment. It's your time. It's something that
Right.
you are a human being and you do matter. And so
Right.
I think that's good.
Right.
And so what do you find is when you speak to business owners or maybe even you,
Hmm.
what's the trap out there that often happens where this is an exact like maybe a story that this is what happens? How does it happen? It's easy to
Well,
happen, but
it's easy to happen if you're building a business. Honestly, it's your baby, right? You really want it to succeed. And so sometimes, and I know this happened for me, I'm talking strictly for me, I didn't want to let go of the reins. And I felt like I had to be in it. And then almost like it's like a badge of honor. Hey, I did this, I did this, I did this. And guess what? As I've grown up, and all that stuff. Now I'm like, no, I need to be able to delegate. I need to be able to let it go. And I need to let go of the control because what I was losing was my family. What I was losing was the time to do the things that I wanted to do. Right. And
yeah,
now that I have a team of people that I work with, it has changed so much because now I rely on someone, but more importantly, now I also feel a little bit of not ownership, but like Thanksgiving almost because I'm able to
yeah,
help now my employees and I know I'm helping their lives. So it's not about me anymore. It's almost like when I thought before it was always about me. Now I'm like, it's more selfless. Now I'm like, hey, I'm affecting so many other people's lives because they're helping me build this amazing thing.
yeah.
Something I never thought about actually.
And I think there's people that are in a business today. Matter of fact, I don't think I know, and I think you're right. There's a very hard. It's very hard for some. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
it's very hard for a lot of people to give up the control, right? Because you often hear this. We grew, a lot of us grew up in a time where if you're going to do it, do it right,
Yep.
and you're so much like it's yours. Like because listen, me being a single entrepreneur, I'm a business of one right now. You start out and you're like, I need it to be successful so that I can feed my family. Like, so you're working very hard to do that, and then you get to a place where business starts being really good, and then you often hear these comments, and I've heard them. It's like, well, I don't have time to go hire somebody, or I don't know what I'm looking for, or I don't want to. And if they do hire them, then they don't let them do their job.
Yeah.
And
Very
I
much so.
yeah,
Letting
and
go
I
of control is a huge
yeah.
issue for business owners.
Yeah. And so people sitting in that right now that may be listening and they're saying, yeah, this you're describing me, here we go. This is not a help to podcast, but I,
Right.
I think for people who are sitting there, and two people that's talking right now who's been that not only in our own business but on the corporate side of it, because it's
Mhm.
not just small entrepreneurs. This
Right.
same problem exists in larger companies as well,
Right.
and it often is crippling to a company. I mean, would you
Mhm.
agree?
100%. 100%. They're
You know,
so afraid of losing their job or losing their whatever, so they don't let go of the reins. But what's happening is they're killing themselves, right? Because they're just dedicating their whole life to this company on the corporate side, that is. Oh, actually, it doesn't matter. Even if you own
yeah,
your own company,
yeah.
you're a
And I don't
slave.
know about you, but I find very often when I meet with a company, and a lot of them are small businesses, entrepreneurs, and I hear I talk to many owners, and I'm sure you do too, and they're just exhausted.
Yeah.
They're like I have to do it all, and it can be very lonely
Yes.
being the owner, and a lot of it is by our design because we don't allow other people to run things, and so we
Right.
become control freaks, and we kind of create that demise ourselves. But
Mhm.
I see it happen all the time, and I love what I think you and I's approach is like uncovering that is fulfilling to business owners to say, yeah, that's me, and how do I fix it? And they don't know how
Right.
to fix it sometimes.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting. I was just having a client conversation this morning, and from the work that we've been doing, they're just like opening their eyes, like, oh my gosh, there's one, would have never been able to accomplish what you guys did. Two, now I have more freedom. And three, it happened so much faster than me trying to figure it out on my own. And I was able to save the time so that I can do what I need to do. Like those things that you don't think about as you're owning your own business, all you're thinking about is taking away my profit that's going through my cash flow. I have to do it myself. They're not going to do it as good as me. All these things are so limiting. And you have to understand there's so much knowledge that you can pull from so many resources that's just going to help your business. They're the experts. You're not the expert. Stay in your lane. And that's the hardest thing as a business owner.
Man, you are not kidding, and it's part of it is there's a little bit of pride mixed into it. You know,
100%.
it's mine. I built it. No one else is going to do it as good as I can.
Yep.
Get it? That's a
Probably.
real fear. It may not. Uh, and may not, but you don't know that until you try. And so, one of the things I had early on that was a great advice, and maybe it's cliche, but I think it's true, is like if you're not hiring people that could take your job, then what are you doing? Like that's what you should be hiring. You want quality people, right? And then when you hire them, you know, you bring somebody in and you put them in this position, and then they're exhausted and they're not happy because you're not allowing them to do what you hired them to do. And it's a process gap that I see, and I know you have some discovery tools that you've created that are very helpful when you talk to clients. And
Hmm.
what I find is most of the time it's this process gap that, for example, when I talk to business owners and we start uncovering these things, which is why I think it's important to have consultants like you and I who've been on the business side, can look at that from that angle and say, how do you handle this? Like, because you have to
Right.
dig it out of them. They're not going to just
Yeah.
go, well, here's all the list of my problems. That's not how they're built. You got to dig it
Mhm.
out, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's one of my favorite parts of the tool that I created. I created a toolbox, an AI toolbox. But the one that I really love is when we develop your brain, your AI brain in the toolbox to be your voice. Literally, it makes you think as you're answering these questions. And sometimes it's easier when you're answering it to a bot or you're answering it to a computer. You can get those things out a lot easier than when you want to explain it to somebody or admit
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
somebody, right? So that's one of the reasons why I did it that way so that we can capture all that, but they don't feel vulnerable to somebody's judgment.
I love that, and I think that's such a great angle when we live in this. We live in this. Both of us use AI and helping companies. I mean, it's a great tool if you know how to
Right.
use it, right? And I think
Correct.
that's the advantages is that we do spend a lot of time like trying to understand what the tool is and how it can work. And then lots of times it's where you and I get to be creative is that we may take multiple tools and wire it together to make one great tool that does
Uh-huh.
multiple things. And
Correct.
and that's what we're good at to help people. And so I tell people all the time when they're looking at AI and they get scared, there's a lot of theory about AI, and I mean, it's
Mhm.
all over the news, right? I mean, we're talking about
Right.
AI almost every single day.
Mhm.
I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's here to
Mm-mm.
stay.
Right.
So if we don't embrace it and say, "How can I leverage this?" If it's going to be, it's like sitting there and you got a Porsche in the driveway, but you never drive it. Like, why would
Right.
you do that, right? Like,
Right. Yeah,
you have to,
exactly.
yeah, you have to embrace it. But I slowly caution people: don't just start getting it without understanding what you're trying to do. And that's the advantages of having people like you and me to be able to say, okay, first, what are you trying to do? Because
Yes.
that's going to dictate what you need.
Exactly. And I always like to tell people that they have to be the human in the loop, right? You're not going to get replaced by the machine. You're going to get replaced by the people who know how to use it. So use it
That's
to
right.
your best. Find your strengths and use it to support you, but don't make it take over you.
Yeah. What do you see right now? Just kind of going down that hole. What do you see the most misuse of AI tools today? Right now, I know it changes daily.
It changes daily, but I think the biggest thing is people trust it too much, right? You got to think of it. It's like the internet on steroids, right? Because it has access to so much knowledge that it's just putting all the knowledge that it puts together into one place that you could just pull all this information. But the problem is, it doesn't have the context, it doesn't have your brain, it doesn't have your experience. So you have to continually look at that information and fine tune it and make it yours and make it from your experience. And what have you seen, right? You can't take things just at face value. You have to start thinking for yourself. And that's the
Yeah,
biggest thing I think.
yeah, I love that, and I think you're right. I think if you always in the back of your mind keep understanding that it's not a human,
No,
it
it's
never
not
will be.
human.
It's a
Right.
tool.
Hmm.
You're the
It's
human.
pretty good. It's
It
really
it it
good.
it it's very good, and it actually gets better every time you interact. But I think if you interact it in a way that you're the one in the room that makes the decisions, the AI doesn't make the decisions. If you're asking AI to make the decision, it's gonna fail you. But if you have the thought, the brain, the understanding, because you've walked the miles inside that company, you know
Right.
where the pits are. It doesn't.
Right.
It's just going to
Right.
give you a very much. It's designed to give you an overlay of a lot of different theories that are out there and condense them so you can look at it. And then
Yes.
you need to choose, well, which theory do I want to use, or how
Right.
what's the angle that fits me, and teach it that way rather than it being like, okay, you tell me what to do here. Like if you're
Right.
asking AI, I'm just using
What
like
to do?
Claude, what
Yeah.
to do, you're using it way wrong.
Right. It's
Yeah.
interesting, I was just thinking of analogy like a conductor in an orchestra, right? The conductor is the person that makes sure that all the pieces are coming together. This is coming in strong, this is coming in light, all of that, but they're the ones that's strategizing. They're the ones that's making it all happen, right? And I think that's how you have to think about it when you're using AI. You're now the conductor, you're the CEO of your company, even if you're just using it as on a personal side. It's still you doing that. So you just got to think of it that way. I thought that's a good example.
I think that's a beautiful example. I think it's spot on. Because that is the way you gotta use it. So, what is right now, I mean, you work with a lot of clients and you see it, like, what is one of the biggest, challenges that you're seeing with businesses right now? Like, what is something that's kinda, maybe we share together, like, a couple things that are, like, prevalent that people are listening like,
Right.
"Yeah," that you're seeing.
I think honestly, I didn't think it is as much, but lately through the last few conversations I've had, there's still so much fear with AI that they're gonna lose their selves, they're gonna lose their identity, and a lot of businesses, well, that's my whole shtick. It's my personal. I'm a person to person kind of company, and I'm saying that's fine. Be that person, but how much of your time? Remember, we talked at the very beginning, time is our most valuable asset. How much of your time is being wasted on these menial tasks? Fix the menial tasks so that let AI do all those menial tasks so that you can be the superhuman. You can be the person that's doing the personal touches. Do whatever you have to do to take those repetitious stuff out so that you can be better at what you do.
Yeah, that's man, that's so an example would be, and I always like to give people an example because 'cause
Sure.
they're like, "Well, I don't know what you mean." 'Cause just be real, like,
Right.
I think of it, let's say, and this may be a good one to start with. Let's say you are, using AI for lead generation. Let's just throw
Hmm.
that out there. I think a lot of people I think a lot of people are dabbling in that. That's probably the
Yeah.
first they like to start, right? And so, if you're a company and you're using lead generation, well, first thing is you got to understand, well, who is your consumer? Because if you're a B2C, it's a different approach than a B2B, right?
Right.
And
100%.
and then let's say that leads are coming in or you're using AI tools to do that. Maybe it's an email outreach, where the AI is, basically answering emails and warming people up to come into your pipeline. The human element is so important in that is because it needs to be a place in that. And you decide where you
Right.
take over and start and tell the personal touch of who you are.
Right.
That's where you're exactly what you're talking about. You could hire one person that couldn't do the amount of outreach that AI could do in 30 minutes. You couldn't hire
Yeah.
enough people.
Hmm.
That's a great tool to use. If I'm just using this example where you're allowing that workflow to do that. But there is a place where the human element comes in and says, this is who we are, this is what we do. And,
Hmm.
and and AI can be trained to do that if you
Yeah.
feed it what you do so that it gets better and better it like your personal story.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the most powerful thing is to make sure you're feeding the AI who you are. Make sure
That's it.
you dictate that, and that's why it's so important. Again, going back to my toolbox, that's my most favorite part of the toolbox is it captures your brain. And actually there's an initial part and then I want to go into it deeper where you spend a lot longer. Like I'm talking a day of answering things over and over just so that the AI really, really understands who you are. Because until then, it's not gonna, garbage in, garbage out, right? Put some good
No
stuff in, it'll
no
be great.
no difference than it is that you standing in a boardroom and talking to all your directors.
Yes,
If you tell them, "This is what we're gonna do," and it's not accurate or it's not to the point,
right.
they're going the human brain hears it. This is the difference in AI, and I just kinda thought about this as we talk about it. The human brain brings it in, and then it goes through a processing and interprets what you said. So, you may tell a story one way, and the person across from me 5 of them may tell it a little bit different, may come to the very end, but it's a little bit different. AI is gonna tell that story exactly the way you tell that story
Yeah.
and make it even better.
Mhm. That's a
That's
great one. That's good.
that that's the difference in when you're a business owner thinking about why that tool could be powerful and how to use it,
Mm.
not taking away the human element, but just remembering that, remember the old trick we used to do in school where I think they called it phone call or whatever, where you
Yeah.
start around the room and you tell something and by the time it got to the end, it was completely different. Like
Yep.
that's
That happens.
that
Right.
happens. It happens where AI is going to tell the same story. And by the time it gets to the very end, it's actually going to be a better story than you actually could have ever thought of it.
Right. But still
Yeah,
pulling from the exact same right data points, right?
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not going to veer off of those. Its
Yeah.
brain's not wired that way. And so,
No.
I use these analogies, and I know you do too. When I talk to people, is try to help them to understand where to put it in because, frankly, it's such a evolving tool that if you own a business, you don't have time to sit there and analyze what all it does. Like there's not enough
Mm-mm.
time. You already don't have enough time, so you surely can't sit
Right.
there and evaluate what AI does. And that's where I think you come in. Myself comes in is saying, okay, we're because we're in it every day. I mean, we see it across
Right.
a lot of different companies and how they're using it.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, you got to stay in your lane and leverage the people's other brains, right?
100%. So what is you kind of mentioned it at the beginning that you just kind of going back. You have an engineer background. I mean, you're an
Hmm.
engineer by trade. I mean, it's always I love talking to engineers and because they're very analytical, right? They're very this is what they are. But you have this creative side about you too. That's
Yeah.
not like most engineers. I mean, let's just be
No.
honest. Most engineers are in this one, not in the creative side, but you got some
Yeah.
creativity about you. So you have a gift of kind of both, which I think's pretty neat.
Yeah, I'm actually very blessed that I was able to do it. I know when I was growing up, I am a Filipino parents and, they were all about math and science, math and science. So I never did anything creative, right? So when I got to college and started taking classes just for fun and that creativity came out, I thought, wow, this is amazing, right? And I started doing a lot of graphic design and just drawing and things I never, ever, ever, ever did before, right?
Yeah,
So I think that just goes to show you that just because you're in one direction, I think this is in life. If you're going down a path of this way and you are open to opportunities, you might be surprised at what else you can do in life, right? I was open to the fact that I could check out I started with calligraphy, if you can imagine. Just trying calligraphy because I never drew before, and then started taking some drawing classes, and then I went to design school, and all these things added up, but only because I was open
Yeah.
to the opportunities. And especially in this day and age, I think sometimes people are like, "Hey, I can't do anything. AI is going to take over my job. I'm not going to do anything." You have to be open. You have to be able to just look around and see what your strengths are, what are you interested in, and go from there. I think that's the only way we're going to be able to live in this age and, you know, find your niche, find your what you want to do. And I think more people are going to be able to find what they're happy with if they're open to it.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that, and I think we, there's a lot of culture that dynamics that create that in us. I mean,
Mhm.
we're fighting a, you know, we're fighting a cultural existence along with a kind of a reality of where we sit at today. And I think when you look at the landscape of, I use this as an example, people that grew up, and you kind of mentioned to it, where it was math and science, it was math and science, and that's what you were kind of created to do it. But there's
Mhm.
a lot of cultures that's exactly the way it is,
Mhm.
and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not what I'm getting at. But then there's the reality of what you're made, your design, who you really are, like what I say, God or whatever created you to be. That's
Yes.
just who you are to be. That people struggle with that, and I think there's a lot of people in work and in business where they're still trying to do what the kind of culture says that this is what you need to do versus what they're really meant to do. And
Yes.
I often, and I think that's why you hear people all the time, and I hear it. You hear it, it's like, I've been doing this all my life and I hate it. Like,
Mhm.
I hear that a lot,
A lot. A lot.
and it's sad, but it's
Mhm.
true. It's true.
Yeah.
And so people that are maybe listening or whatever that are struggling with that, I think in order to find to me, if you don't get true happiness and do what you're designed to do, like you need to be doing what you're designed to do, you'll be way more fulfilled.
Yeah. And you'll actually find more success. If you're doing what you were meant to do, you will find your success. So, and fulfillment, purpose, all of it.
All of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanna kind of just like, the last 10 or so minutes that we have, just talk a little bit about like you and a little bit about your tool and your approach when it comes to looking at the client. We've talked a little bit about it, but
Mhm.
if you would, I'd love to hear kind of a little bit more about the tool as far as our audience to be able to hear it and say, "Oh man, this is really cool." And so do you mind sharing a little bit about why you designed it and a little bit about kind of what it does?
Yeah, like, so I created a toolbox for my customers that are maybe starting out or don't have a lot of cash flow right now. They're just beginning, and they can't use my full services just yet, right? So this toolbox was really that's how it started, was to create a solution for people who are just trying to get started. And I use many, many tools, and what I found was all those tools can be confusing, and I don't know which to use, and I don't know why to use it, right? So what we created with the toolbox is a bunch of tools for marketing, and it actually then became also an executive assistant as well. It'll pull in your calendar, it'll look at your emails and see what's most important, and it'll give you a daily brief. So those are things that I personally love the best. And again, I created it so I could use it too. So as I create, that's what happens. And then it becomes the toolbox, but it's super easy to understand. And then it gives reasons why it does the things it does, right? It's built on Claude for now, and depending on I'm in AI all the time, so I'm agnostic. If I find something better, I'll move it over to that. So it's going to ever evolve to be a better tool. But the point was to create something easy to use. And then obviously once you realize, I think the biggest thing is some people don't understand how AI can really help them. And this is going to show them some of the tools that AI can do. And then all of a sudden they're going to be like, hey, my goal is I hope that they find other things, other repetitious tasks that they need to take advantage of or need more better processes. And if that's the case, then we can be there to help them as well. So that was the point of all of it. And it's an incredible tool. We're doing a soft launch on Friday, just so you know, and it's going to be going out to the masses very, very soon. But we're definitely wanting to get as many people. I'll have a webinar. I don't know when this is going to be aired, but we'll I'll keep you in the loop and I'll let you have all the links. So whenever we have any of these calls or whatever, if anyone in your audience would love information, I'd be glad to give it to them.
I love that, and I think that's such a, really, 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 great way for someone out there who maybe is like, I really don't know, I'm a small business or I don't have a lot of cash flow, but are because listen, the more AI tools you get, it's expensive. It can be,
It is
but this is a great way to get it and get a little get some help, get some time back, get some help back, and being able to do that. So yeah, we will when we push this out, we'll have all the links and everybody can go and do that. And
great.
we Annabelen and I are talking too, and it may be a deal where I'll have it on my website too for people to go and check out. But I think it's a I think one of the things I was looking for is this. I think it's a fascinating tool, and I think it meets people right where they are,
Hmm.
gives them some relief, and it's a great way to start using it to maybe answer some questions rather than going out and buying a bunch of different tools that once you get them, you really don't know what to do with them.
Right.
I mean, you're like, well, I don't know. I don't know how to use that. And next thing you know, you're in a rabbit hole. You're hours into one trying to make it work for you, and it's like
It'll
this
never
is
work
too
for
much.
her.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
then um,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I love that. So yeah, we'll definitely get that out. So as we kind of go toward the end, this is what I call the quick fire round, and it's just
Okay.
basically 4 questions I ask, and then you just answer whatever's on your mind. There's no wrong answer. It's just fun.
Okay. All right. Let's do it.
So first one, here we go. Just first instinct, fire it out. So
Okay.
first instinct when a client says they have a sales problem.
Usually it's not a sales problem. Awesome. Almost always it's a systems problem. They're actually probably not giving themselves credit on the sales side. The problem is they're not following up because this day and age, we have so much bombarding us. It takes many, many conversations. And that's where I think people really get misconstrued that they have a sales problem. It's not that they have a sales problem. They have to be on top of the person so that when they are ready, you're already top of mind. That's the issue, not necessarily your sales.
I agree. I call it process issue because it's typically it's not the sales. It's basically, I find it often is people like you're not even like your sales team's over here trying to speak something that's not even true to who you really are. Like there's this
Yeah,
disconnect.
disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One tool you could not run your business without.
Right now, Claude,
Yeah. It's
that
great.
is my tool right now.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Best advice you ignored and we're glad you did it.
You know what? The best advice was to get help. And
Yeah.
I ignored it, ignored it, ignored it. And now if it wasn't for the fact that I had mentors, coaches, I surrounded myself with people and I created a team. It's all takes a village. And I wanted to do it all by myself. You cannot do it by yourself.
True. Yeah. It's great. Last one, and I ask everyone this, so this is not a new one. What does process over pressure, which is my theme, what does that mean to you? Looks different for everybody.
I think if you have the right processes in place, the pressure is relieved, honestly. That's what I think of when you say process beats pressure. That's what happens. When you have the right systems and the processes in place, that pressure is alleviated.
I couldn't agree more. That's exactly the meaning behind it. The
I
reason you
love it.
feel pressure is because your process is broken, typically.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I
so
love it.
yeah. So as we end, how can people reach you? How can people find you? How can if they're listening to this and like, man, I want to know more. Tell us how to get in touch with you.
I'm on social media. You can get me at AI Freedom with Annabelen. That's my Instagram handle. And you can get me at ignitedesignonline.com. And then soon I'll be sending out the links for the toolbox. So those are the ways to get a hold of me. If you just want to say toolbox and DM me, I'll know what you want to do and we'll start a conversation. I'm on everything.
Fantastic. Well, this has been awesome. I think it's been very helpful for people. I encourage you guys that are out there try the toolbox. I think it'd be something that's fun. If I don't know the cost. I don't think it's going to be a very expensive tool to try at the beginning. Probably about the same avenue that it would be for you to go get any other tool. But Try it.
Right.
I think you'll use it and you'll enjoy it, and it also will help some clarity.
Awesome. Thank you so
Well,
very much for having me, Chad. I really appreciate it. And I had a blast today.
awesome. Well, thank you. And again, as always, I'm Chad Paris. I own Stonefly Consulting, and this podcast is Process Over Pressure. See you next time.